Denzel Curry is not underrated or underappreciated. He's not. I've seen this throughout the years, how Denzel Curry doesn't get the love that other rappers should. He doesn't get the mainstream attention, doesn't get the views, doesn't get the nomination. But you gotta understand, Denzel Curry is not a mainstream rapper that's being pushed, that's being invested, and is being shown everywhere by a big label. Like, that's the first thing we need to understand here, is that Denzel Curry is currently independent. And when you're independent, as much as you may or may not be familiar with it, you're not going to have as much promo. You're not going to have as much advertisement. And even then, that's debatable, seeing as how much an artist could do just by themselves on social media. You're not going to get the connections to perform live on certain areas. You're not going to get the connections to be inserted in certain playlists. And overall, going into the fact that he's independent, we're now going to go into the audience. And for the most part, we got to understand that the consumers of hip hop, the mainstream consumers, are going to consume the mainstream artists. The people that listen, they tap in with Rap Caviar on Spotify, and that's where they get 95% of their hip hop updates, whether it's music, whether who's hot or not. We talk about the Rap Caviar listeners, and no shame in it either. I want to say that here too. There's no shame in being a casual listener to hip hop and rap. There's no shame on being a person that enjoys listening to Rap Caviar, so on and so forth. All right, it's cool. I mean, I appreciate the people that just because you're not a hardcore hip hop fan, that you enjoy the genre regardless. However, mainstream listeners, casual listeners of hip hops, are not going to be tapping in with Denzel Curry the same way a hardcore listener is. The same way one of us that we've been listening to Curry for years since like 2016. The same way one of us is going to be tapping in and appreciating the artistry. They not. They're going to be going for a more casual experience. We're trying to hear the 808s. They're trying to hear the 808s. I mean, at times me too, but they're trying to hear the 808s. They're trying to hear the bass. They're trying to hear that ignorant shit. We're trying to hear something that, hey, the instrumental going to carry. The verse is going to be dope too. All that shit. We're trying to hear something that's popping. Now, I'm talking about popping. Regardless of, oh, I mean, they probably just started. They're being pumped by a label. But we trying to hear them pop. All right, I already spent enough time for that. So Denzel Curry, when we look into his discography, when we look into his style of music, when we look into the amount, the content that he has, it isn't something for the mainstream listener. It isn't, and that's okay. I love it. I love that it's not something for the mainstream listener, because for us, we eating. Whenever we're having tracks like Walking, 5 minutes introspective, a beautiful instrumental, you're not gonna have the average person that listens to Lil Durk enjoying it. And that's all right. And hopefully we have people that are casual listeners that may tap into a track like Walking and be like, this is interesting. I wanna potentially replay this or listen to it more. So already with the fact that Denzel Curry is independent, we're not gonna see a lot of the inflated numbers that a label or big, millions of dollars can pump into an artist to place them everywhere. So it's understandable why Denzel Curry is not reaching certain artists, mainstream artists, as far as that. When it gets into the actual audience, the whole entire audience, it's going to be fans of Denzel Curry that support Curry and people getting into Denzel Curry. But for the majority of hip hop, they're not going to be tuning in like that. And that's all right. That's cool. And then I want to dive into Denzel Curry's number. Denzel Curry has been rapping, I believe, since 2015, 2014. And it's 2023. Denzel Curry's almost been doing this for a decade. He might have been like dabbling in earlier. That's just to my knowledge. Denzel Curry has been in the rap game for a decade. And just last year in 2022, Denzel Curry arguably has the best rap album of the year. That is incredible. Flowers and appreciation. There are not many rappers ever in the history of hip hop and rap that are able to stay in the game for 10 years. And at their most recent year, they're dropping arguably album of the year. And he's done this a couple times already. Black Balloons, all the way in 2018. Black Balloons. Taboo, Tattoo, I'm all over the place. But in 2018, of course, so about 5 years ago, arguable for album of the year, depending on who you ask. One of my personal favorites, Zoo, was in 2019. So it isn't like Denzel Curry isn't feeding his fans. It isn't like Denzel Curry isn't putting any work into where, oh, maybe he's underappreciated just because he doesn't. Nah, Denzel Curry is feeding his fans nonstop, almost 10 years in. And he's still doing good numbers for being independent. That's why I want to lead up to. He is still doing incredibly well, 10 years in, dropping high-level raps, and still doing numbers. Now, granted, they're not in the millions. Like, if we go, well, as far as the YouTube certain live performance, but if we go into like YouTube, for example, Walking, released last year, already at 54 million streams. X-Wing, 16 million streams. Ricky, a track from 2019, 115 million streams. Just to get a little bit of comparison to understand, all right, but they're almost halfway for a track that released in 2019. Ricky. Sandro, 10 million streams. And how can you sit here and say Denzel Curry is underrated, underappreciated, when we have tracks from an album that released not even a year ago that are doing over 50 million streams, doing over 10 million streams, that are already catching him halfway with some tracks he's released years ago? And now I do want to mention some of his bigger ones, of course, being Cloud Cobain, 193 million streams. Ultimate, a crazy banger, 195 million streams. So he's already about 25% of the way with some of his biggest songs ever. And people have the audacity to say, hey, yo, he's underrated or underappreciated. Nah, that ain't it. I disagree on there. And then even going as far as YouTube views, Denzel Curry Troubles live at the Komodo City Cafe, one of his most recent videos, 29,000 views. X-Wing with Vevo, 86,000 views. Walking, the live performance, 31,000 views. And then when we get to his actual music videos and not the performances, not the live performances, Walking's at 9 million views. Zatochi with Slow Tide, that's almost at 3 mil, a track that is exhilarating, feels like something from Sonic Adventure 2, something from you're in the middle of the jungle, you're training. Y'all know what I'm talking. If you don't, definitely check out Denzel Curry. Zatochi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, with Slow Tide. Denzel Curry Troubles with T-Pain, someone whose peak was in the 2010s, late 2000s, early 2010s, questionable. And 2.5 million views. This is all being done independent with beautiful cinematic visuals and with actual lyrical substance, or even just having the instrumental carry the track, that are at the top of the game. Denzel Curry is not underappreciated. Denzel Curry is not underrated either. I feel at this point, when you're saying Denzel Curry is underrated, you're being disrespectful. Because real hip hop fans know who Denzel Curry is. Real hip hop fans appreciate Denzel Curry. Like, people that are tapped into hip hop, people that are tapped into rap, like genuinely tapped in, they've been known about Denzel Curry. They are giving him his flowers, but he ain't backed by a major label. Mainstream audiences, it's not going to be easy for them to digest if they do go through his discography. And when it comes to the numbers, being independent, 10 years in dropping arguably your best album, Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, and you're doing these numbers, Denzel Curry is in a great spot. You could go talk to, like I said earlier, you having a conversation with someone who really appreciates Denzel Curry, he ain't underrated. Y'all both know Denzel Curry. Any other fans of hip hop, y'all know Denzel Curry. The average Joe tapping into rap caviar, he doesn't know Denzel Curry, so that means Denzel Curry is underappreciated, underrated? Get out of here, man. Get out of here with that. We showing Denzel Curry love here. We showing him appreciation. We got to put him above that. Oh, he's underappreciated, or he's underrated, or if Kendrick dropped Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, it will be regarded highly. No. Stop the noise. I know Denzel Curry's dope. You, hopefully, know Denzel Curry's dope. If not, check out his music. And that's the best thing we could do here. Instead of complaining about how he's underrated, blah, blah, blah. Hey, yo, you're not tapped in with Denzel Curry? Check it out. Not your style of music? That's cool too. We're going to keep it pushing.